Live. We're going to let a little time sink in to let the algo and the stream hit the masses here. So Jasmine, really appreciate you jumping on here with me on InnSync Live Show, which is our very first, by the way.
I am honored. I don't know. I feel that you took a risk on having me be the first guest. So thank you. I'm so excited. And I was just telling you, Cory, that I should have matched your vibes with the 4th of July shirt. I will remember. I should have known because you're always so festive and fun. So.
Oh, thank you. Always love our conversations, and I loved being on your industry chat. So, hey, I said this is a no miss situation here for me. So I appreciate you jumping on here.
I love it.
I have today's guest, by the way. I'm going to jump right at it because I know people are in festivity mode right now. So, we are here to help talk about how to fix some of the chaos in hospitality tech. And I have Jasmine Seliga. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You did perfect.
Woo! And she's the co-founder of Affixify, a smarter way for hotels to find the right software. No fluff, no pay to play, just data-driven matches that work. So she's going to cut through the BS and help buyers and vendors connect in the right way. So Jasmine, welcome to InnSync Live. Happy 4th Eve, by the way.
Happy 4th Eve. Thank you. It does feel a little weird because it's like Friday. I don't know. You almost think of 4th of July should be Saturday. So it kind of throws you off, but happy 4th of July weekend. It's going to be great. And I'm excited to talk about the whole vendor landscape today. You and I have had several conversations about it recently. So
we have indeed. And you daily bring up a lot of these topics and have great discussions. So what better stage than us here? And by the way, this is an interactive session here, guys, by the way. So we'd love to hear if anything, if Jasmine or I were striking some chords, don't be shy. Agree. We love some pushback, by the way. In fact, I'm encouraging that.
Yeah.
In hospitality, we've got a nodding, a lot of agreement, but sometimes, that keeps us from changing. So drop your questions, your comments, tell us where you're from. If you're in the audience, and let's bring your voice to the convo. So I'm going to get right at it. What's the frustration with vendors? You said that there is a lot out there.
Yeah.
It's hard to reach, overly focused on drawn out sales process. Can you explain a little bit more about what you're hearing there in the trenches?
Yes. So I did like a carousel post the other day, and I know you caught your attention. What I did was I finally kind of had like this moment of I'm a little fed up from hearing all my hotels tell me their frustrations. Like I want to gently but firmly, I don't know if that's a thing. I'm a mom, share it with the vendor community. And I just want to say one thing first. So I was a vendor for years. I'm not coming in as someone that hasn't been in those shoes. And a lot of what I've learned now that we're a middleman marketplace, if I could go back and tell the younger me, if you will, you've seen that like social media trend. I had coffee with the younger me. I would be saying, don't do half of what you were doing because it's really frustrating sometimes. And so I'm really hoping, that message seems to resonate. People want to learn. I get to hear a lot from the hotel side of the house. Bottom line, there's a lot of frustration and I don't know, do you want me to just list it out? How do you want me to kick it off? Okay, let's do it.
Let her fly.
Let's do it. So, and then we can dive in, right? So the first thing that blows my mind, and I see it the most, so I'm just going to be honest, unresponsive or non-responsive vendors. And that one, I know. And if I think it's Celeste, you guys are good friends, and she's like the sales guru. She's probably falling over right now. We hear and we experience, because part of our platform is we do like a personal intro between buyer and seller. And we sometimes don't get responses from vendors. And, like we have management companies wanting to talk to them in these new builds, and it's not every vendor. So I don't want to, be like grouping people together, but oftentimes these hoteliers say like, I cannot get in touch with a vendor. I had a hotelier come to me earlier this year And he just used Affixify to find a contact at his favorite vendor because no one would email him back. And I was like, oh my gosh. So number one, be responsive. We got to fix that. And then two is the second top thing that I hear, these long drawn out sales processes. And we can dive into that, but they don't always want that. No one really wants the 2-hour demo showing every PMS feature, right? And they've done their due diligence. And it's like these companies are paying all this money to get these formal sales programs in place. And I'm not saying, I get it, you need some of that, but a lot of these hoteliers, they don't want to sit through all these calls. So that's another one. I'll pause. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the unresponsiveness. There's no excuse. I mean, the fact that if you had an interested, there's some level of intent there, especially in what obviously we're seeing in a softening economy. It kind of depends on where you're at, but that is just unexcusable. Now, secondly, and I know Celeste is probably, if she's around, she would maybe agree with this. But there is a notion of not going through proper discovery and assuming a hotelier knows what they need based on that. And suddenly, here's in Cassandra. Hopefully, I'm loping in here. This is what retention hits in, because if they skip discovery, they think they go through a demo or they need this product, but then they don't really uncover the root cause of the problem, all the other elements, and suddenly there's a quick onboarding, not an understanding there of really what the product does. And ultimately it's a 30, 60 day, and suddenly it's like, we're not using this, and they're gone. So I can totally see that. And I can see how they're frustrated because everybody's busy, but a longer time effect is if you don't go through that property discovery, there could be a retention problem. So I'd love to hear.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, actually, you're totally right. I think we can meet in the middle. So what I hear a lot, because we're kind of the first step in the intro process, is a lot of times these hotels aren't ready for all of that. They're just doing their initial due diligence, right? And so like word for word, I've had a hotelier tell me, I'm nervous to connect with someone through Affixify because I don't have time to do 5 vendor demos, right? But I do want just a 15-minute quick, can you tell me if you're solving my problem? If yes, and then they narrow it down, then definitely. So you know what I'm saying? I think we have to kind of like separate the two. I think
Absolutely.
They need a chance. And to your point, right, they're already doing a lot of their own due diligence independently before they ever get to that sales rep. But maybe take a little time just to let that hotelier figure out if it's even a fit. Then, oh my gosh, yes, you don't want to like buy a PMS and it's a disaster, because we see that too. I think the two are separate, if that makes sense. So for clarification, initially just be careful not to throw, because I remember being a vendor and someone saying, can you just send me like your white paper or your brochure back then? And you're like, I don't want to do that because I might lose you in the process. But they're thinking, I cannot sit through 5 hours of demos next week. I need to come down with my top 3 and then do that due diligence.
Very good point. Imagine a self-serve demo process where you could get just a abbreviated CliffsNote version of what your platform or product or service does based on your specific problem that you had. That way you could get just down to it. Because like you said, they don't want to go through a full demo because there's a lot of bells and whistles that don't necessarily apply to them, and they get off the rails. What do you think about maybe even an abridged version of the demo? Because I get what you're saying. Just to give them a little bit of information to know that, hey, this does apply to us or not. Like, let's move on type of thing.
I actually like now my brain is spinning of like, oh my goodness, that's a good idea. Something, right? Something that I think we get very emotionally tied as salespeople to a lead, and you don't want to do anything to risk that. And truthfully, I was traditionally taught to take them through, your challenger sales style discovery. And then you do this, and then you do this, and you stay in control. But I think we're seeing a shift. So something like that could be really interesting. But, in the past, it was very much like a gatekeeping situation. Like, don't put your demo out there at all, even if it's brief. Don't put your pricing on your website because you don't want to. And now I think, to your point, we're seeing a shift in that. And I think it would be really beneficial. It actually builds trust. Go ahead. And then I'll share. I have so many stories.
Oh, no, I love that, because what you're saying is so true. You can't hide anything anymore because people are expecting to see it first off. And even some of the prompts that I did, it gave me pricing. The hotel doesn't even put it out. And I'm using a particular example. Companies that purposely tried to suppress their pricing because that they think that that's the smart thing to do. Lo and behold, AI is finding it anyways.
Yeah.
So you're not driving that. You're actually looking deceptive, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's just kind of an old school mentality. And I understand there's the concept of pricing. I've been through all the sales trainings, right? Where you don't want to pigeonhole someone and they don't talk to you because of your price, but the buyers aren't thinking that way. Like they don't even really want to engage. So even in our search, we have we don't do an exact price, but like a dollar symbol. So for example, I'm not going to go to the $5 symbol restaurant from Yelp if I know my budget's in the $2 symbol. So there is a point where we have to accept budgets are a real thing. And that was one of the things I put in that carousel is we've bought into this somewhat of a lie. Well, if they need it bad enough, someone will make room in the budget. I do have to say, as a startup founder, that's not always true. Sometimes I need a tool pretty badly, but I just can't afford it. So yeah, all of that being said, and that's a tangent, I think transparency with demo and pricing could be a really helpful thing.
And like I said, because you can't control it anymore. If you want to be a player in this space, you have no choice but to be completely
transparent.
Absolutely. There are no more secrets. It's all uncovered. And the more that companies don't see this, first of all, you're not even going to be shortlisted, because if we're going straight to sourcing this way to get a short list of 3 vendors, and you're not giving AI what it's asking for in the terms of EEAT, sure, you're totally familiar with that. Expertise, experience, authoritative, and trust. You will not you won't even be at the table for conversation.
Yeah.
We've got a couple questions here, by the way, Jasmine. So basically, listen to what pains hotels have and give demos around that.
Love it.
Yeah. I think it's Fossil. Appreciate the question. And then we have Cassandra here. In today's market, I love using short Loom videos to mini sneak peek demos, because you can see when they watch it and how much of it they watched. Then follow up with value and specific questions. That is actually a pretty solid approach, wouldn't you think?
I love that. Thank you, both of you. So to Cassandra's point, I lived this in real time this morning. Nice. An hour and a half ago, I had sent, because we're still a platform, but I had sent a video, Loom, to somebody that said, hey, I might have a hotel client that'd be interested in checking out your platform. And again, we're not really a vendor, but we have a platform behind us. So I sent the Loom, and she super sweetly said, hey, we watched it at this time. They're not actually looking to change their PMS. This is a little different than what we thought. So I'll keep you in mind for the next time. But I appreciated that, because that actually saved me a 30-minute conversation when they didn't have a full understanding of what we did. So to that point, I think it's a really important thing to be transparent. It saves everybody's time. And I didn't win in that scenario necessarily, but also now this person who's a consultant, they have a view of my platform. So maybe for the next client, it's a good fit.
Nice.
Right.
Very nice. Faisal has another follow-up question is, what are your thoughts on open source solutions for hotels?
Ooh, do you mean, can I ask you a follow-up? So open APIs, is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, that was a little over my pay grade.
I'm honestly a lifelong learner of this too. So
absolutely. Well, yeah, it's changing daily? Yeah. It's crazy. We've completely changed our content strategy, because literally 2 weeks out, sometimes the topic's not on point anymore. It's unbelievable how quickly this is moving. So there is a growing fatigue around underdeveloped tech and complicated integrations. And I can only imagine the barriers that go along with that, right? Because no one wants to go through some sort of long learning curve, get their team ramped up. We're all wearing so many hats. I can imagine how much you've got to weigh in on this one. Do tell.
Yeah, this is a big one. We're in a fragmented, I just talked about this on the Sweet Success podcast. Like hospitality tech is just incredibly fragmented. And unfortunately, I don't know. I mean, you hear about maybe that changing, or you have the all-in-one systems that work for some people, but it's a frustration. And a real life example, a week ago, I was on a real-time shopping session with a management company. They're searching for a platform, and they got very tripped up because they're like, oh, I actually need these integrations. So you think about this. I'm choosing a PMS. What if they have 3 integrations I need, but 1 I don't? And of those 3, what if only 2 are a two-way integration? Do you see what I'm saying? It makes my head spin. It's so hard. There's amazing experts out there. If you guys know, like Ira Vuk, who has written books about this. I mean, people are trying to fix this in our industry, but it's so overwhelming. And it can really kill a sales process because that's another reason we exist, right? Like you might get in 3 demos and realize, well, I love your product, but if you don't integrate to Event Temple, that's a non-starter for me. So I don't know. I mean, I can't even say like, here's the solution. I don't know how close we are to that. And the all-in-one platforms do work for some, but you have hotels that are so complicated. They need those add-on platforms. They can't just use the all-in-one out of the box and call it a day. And I think it gets into a different topic, which I'm always learning how many different types of hotels we have, different types of operations. There's literally no one size fits all. So it's like a puzzle. It becomes a puzzle. Everyone talks about the tech stack, and Ira calls it the tech puzzle. And she's so right, because you have to intricately put these pieces together. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And funny thing you had mentioned Event Temple, because we literally are wrestling with this exact same problem for our hotels on the group side. The big legacy sales and catering systems don't play well at all with anybody. They don't integrate. And
Right.
I can understand that when you own 95% of the market, I totally understand that. But one of the things that Event Temple does specifically is they even have a Zapier connection, which is easy. You can bolt on a
Amazing.
HubSpot or a marketing CRM, which makes it super powerful.
Yeah.
And a lot of hotels don't understand that. So actually, this is a great segue. I did get clarification. He said yes, and as an open API is the biggest roadblock sometimes. So yes, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think that the conversations I'm having, I think open APIs are good. I'm just going to share from the buyer's perspective that I hear. Sometimes though that suggests, so when you're talking to a vendor, if they're like, well, we don't integrate to this, but we have an open API, that is still a red flag because there's still development that has to be done to get those two talking. And I want to be clear,
Right.
I might have had the idea for my company, but I didn't develop it. So I'm not in the weeds, but I can tell you from seeing years of work, it's incredibly hard to get an integration going. Both vendors still have to play nice. Even if one has an open API, it doesn't mean there's nothing that, no work. So to me, I think it's good. I think it's needed. I do think it's better, but you also have to be careful if you're in a sales seat not to tout that so much, because I don't think that makes anyone feel safe. Now that's different, right? I want to be clear. A huge group or brand, great. They're going to get pushed up, right? They're going to get priority. But if I'm an independent hotel and you say, I have an open API, well, that doesn't actually guarantee anything, if that makes sense. If that answers the question.
Yeah, it's funny because he followed up and said he had spoke to a small hotel, and they quoted him 8,000 euros on a PMS to integrate with them. So yeah, I can see that as a huge roadblock. And I remember us doing one with one of our, and it not only was it expensive, it was really timely. It took I think 90 days before we got through it all. And then there was hiccups, and was not an easy process. So we avoid that at all costs. So I can only imagine a hotelier who's gone through uh, and funny, the copy in my the LinkedIn post was a Frankenstein scenario of integration is like at
Mm.
all costs. We don't do that. I could see how that would be a huge barrier.
It is so hard for me to hear that someone would charge 8,000 euros for an integration. And you know what? Again, we work with a lot of vendors. So if that's you, I'm sorry. But in truly, you see vendors like Muse, vendors that say we're not going to charge. I don't know their business model, but I think that they're really helping their client. And you see them, they have a massive library of integrations. So clearly they're doing something right. I think we have to be very careful because he mentioned it as a small PMS. My thought on that is you might get someone in because it's a small PMS, but if you're charging 8,000 euros for one integration, I mean, you got to be killing your customer retention at that point, in my opinion.
Totally. And I just went ahead and added the stream here because you're getting a lot of questions, some back and forth here.
Oh, Cloud,
Looks like
yes.
you,
So, go ahead. No, you know me,
yeah.
I'm talk and talk.
Well,
Cloudbeds is
actually, you
great.
know what? I know. You know what? Let's do this. Because there's one really important thing, element question, and then let's roll through because
Do
this is
it.
great.
Love
This
it.
is really engaging here. So let's wrap this up. One last one. We touched on it just a little bit here, but it's the rise of the DIY sales process thanks to AI and Agentics
Mhm.
tools. Sounds like you're seeing that already. It's amazing. It's almost like in 2 weeks it went from I have no idea what agentic search is. Now it's like we got back from high tech. It was on everybody's lips. Now it's like hit like parabolic topic now. So you want to weigh on that a little bit?
Yeah, actually, so you called me probably a month or two ago and said, "Hey, have you thought about this, heard about this?" And you're right. Everybody's talking about it. I think we have yet to see the power of it, but I mean, when you see, and I'm just sharing the little bit I know, I'm not an expert in this area compared to you, but when you start to see people saying, I just saw a hotel owner, he said, I took my family to Europe. Every restaurant we ate at and hotel we stayed at, we found through ChatGPT. We literally planned our Europe trip through that. And that's a huge shift because I'm using Google normally, but to think that now are we opening ChatGPT in our browser instead of Google to look things up? Are we now saying, I'm not going to go straight to the vendor, right? I just had this. I'm sharing all these real life things because this is like, I'm living this. I just had somebody, I won't share who, but tell me like they're already researching tech on ChatGPT. They're coupling it with our platform because we do a little bit different approach. And she's like, I mean, that's how I'm researching. And so I think it's interesting. And I wish vendors kind of knew and were grasping that. You've taught me a lot and it really got my attention. You said it, like it's not going to be a does this work. I think that is what's happening, and so we just have to adapt and make it happen.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more, not surprisingly. And I have a really great tip for you that I learned from ChatGPT.
I'm ready.
Ready for this?
I'm
And
ready.
these are the examples that I haven't clicked on a blue link in Google. I can't tell you how long, and it's
Yeah.
because of examples like this. I just learned how I could build my twins' credit score because they're freshmen in college. By the time they get out of as a senior, I could simply add them, and ChatGPT taught me this. This is absolutely crazy how easy it is. I simply just add them as authorized users to my Capital One, two credit cards. I don't have to give them a credit card, and because I'm scared that they're going to go overspend, I
Yeah.
simply need to add them to two clean credit cards. I don't have any balances on them at all. They will ride on my payment and my
Mhm.
credit score all the way without them even spending a cent. It told me exactly how to go about doing it.
Wow.
It gave me predictabilities on how much their credit score would go up. And I'm like, this is incredible. And
Oh.
I've sourced my insurance. I don't
Mhm.
like, there's no barriers because it's telling me it's almost like the buying process accelerated. Things that I would wait like and sit on because I don't want to make a buyer's remorse or make a mistake, or it's
Mhm.
really just turbocharged everything. It's unbelievable.
I'm thinking as you're saying that, just two of my own personal use cases. One is that we're trying to take, well, my husband's in the other room. He doesn't know this yet, but I want to take our boys to Great Wolf Lodge before the school year starts. My sister and I have this scheme where we're like, let's scheme up a plan. So I used GPT this week just to find out, like, what are the deals of Great Wolf Lodge and DFW? And it gave me, you know, the website and then this and then like a Groupon, and it was just right there. I didn't have to do anything. And then secondly, I created an entire meal and exercise plan for myself for the rest of the year by two ChatGPT prompts that I now have in a PDF on my phone. And I told my husband, I'm like, that kind of stinks for fitness apps, because he's in the fitness world. I'm like, because I just did all that and I didn't have to pay a penny for it. So it's interesting how this is, you know, the evolution of this is quick.
And like I said, when you get a taste of that, just a little bit, it's like you can't go back to just a traditional search anymore. It's really addictive. You know, I was in Home Depot and I have got my app out and I was asking it all these questions, just like fixing my grass. I've got topsoil, I've got sand, and I got seed. How do I layer those? Which order? It mapped out the entire and why. It's insane. It's like it recommended the seed I should use. This is where we're going with everything. And I know obviously I'm trying to connect it to how people buy technology and in hospitality. But literally I'm circling this back around to the original topic. We're doing so much DIY now. Because we don't want to early on bring a salesperson in the process. And if I'm doing this, companies, hotels, they need to know content is everything. Because if I'm looking for information and I'm trying to source it, you got to produce it for people that are doing it. So if you're waiting on this and think it's going away or whatever the case may be, and there's so many companies that have not got into the content game, written how to solve your prospects' most painful challenges, written and video. Start now. You're going to be invisible, not just online, in every buyer's landscape.
I'm like over here, like, okay, marketing, we got to do this too. I mean, you know, we have kept a lot of this front of mind, but it's going really quickly. So,
and it's got to pull it from someplace. Yes, website visits are going to go down, but if you look at how it's sourcing in the citations, even if you do one prompt, and it's really interesting to click on the citations and find out where the sources are. High authority sites, but like I mentioned, to EEAT, and that's primarily human. Those are human signals of trust. Trust is not built by products, services, or bricks and mortar, by the way. It's built by us. Right. More humanity, more human. And it's ironic that AI is telling us your companies need to be more human. You'll get more trust signals.
Oh, completely. 100%. That's why, anyway, we could go on and on, but let's,
All right. Hey, this is crazy. This is excitingly crazy. We've got a great audience here. Guys, I'm sorry. It looks like there's a few that are anonymous. So I'm going to stream this over here right now. And let's get into some of these questions. And actually, Jasmine, if you just want to read some of these, I will.
I would love that. No, go ahead.
We've got Ed on, but it looks like his name, which Ed's great. Obviously, you know who Ed is as well. But Ed, we can't see your name. Looks like you're on here somewhere.
So looks like APIs are getting replaced with MCP and other industries. Hope something similar comes in hospitality. As if these solution providers don't adapt, they will gradually be taken over by someone with a more open approach. And I see somewhere that Happy was mentioned. So I think honestly, the topic of integrations, interfaces, it'll never be something we can get away from until there's a true solution. I can't say like, this is the solution. Someone like Ed, who's super brilliant, might actually be able to bring that. And I think there are people that are trying, but it's tough. It's really, really tough in our industry right now. And I can tell you in real time, I've seen it impact the decision-making process in new tech purchases. Real time. Someone saying, like I just had that, shopping for PMS. Oh, I would like to find an RMS on your platform, but I'm not ready because how do I know they're going to integrate to the PMS I need? It's just tough. So.
So we go. Oh, this is fun.
Awesome. So AI will finally be the motivator for hotels to nail the basics, structure your data, answer questions, sell your destination. Needs clean. Yes, I agree. And I think people are listening. People are starting to pay attention. So.
Oh, here we Yep.
There
There we
you go.
go. Let's
That's
see here. I
incredible.
think we've got one more here.
That must be it.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah, that's bizarre.
It's
Hey,
me.
you're going incognito today, man. It's not usually your roll how you roll. So, yeah, this has been fantastic. Hey, anybody's got anybody last questions? We're right on the money here. This has been, I think, a little bit fun, action packed. We've
Yeah.
got some banter back and forth. I'm loving these lives. I know you you're actually I've followed your industry chats, and I'm like, I love what Jasmine's doing, and that's kind of motivated me to get into this. So this has been really fun. Yeah.
Thank you. It's fun. This is my favorite kind of forum, even above podcasts. So thank you for having me on your kickoff InSync Live. I'm super honored.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time out, and hope you enjoy the fourth. And we will see you on the flip side.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Take care, Jasmine.
Bye-bye.